Greetings, loyal subscribers and honoured guests. This is it. This is the episode I've been looking forward to making since I started the Zzapped edition of Covertape Chaos. This is the first tape that I remember actually having back in the day, and I would load up a couple of the things on it frequently. The other two I barely remember at all, so it'll be interesting to check them out again now. Technically, it belonged to my friend, but he lent it to me and never asked for it back. This is also the episode where the tapes expand from 2 things to 4, and it stays that way for most of the rest of the run. Ivan Iron Man Stewart's Off-Road Racing took pride of place on the cover this month. I only ever played the demo version on the Commodore 64, but I remember enjoying it immensely. Elsewhere this issue, the team also looked at Special Criminal Investigations and Total Recall, which were both on the way from Ocean Software, and there was the first glimpse of the ill-fated C64 GS console. That's enough waffling for now though, let's get on to the good stuff. We kick things off with the first of 3 full games, which is Foxx Fights Back from Denton Designs. This would eventually become the item on this tape that I would spend the most time with after I moved on to the full retail release of Creatures. I think this is an utterly fantastic game and a superb thing to receive as a freebie. You take control of the titular fox who has been sent out to find food by his lady fox friend. For some reason though, these foxes appear to eat apples. Maybe they're vegan, who knows. Anyway, you set out, dashing through the fields, taking out any pesky hunting beagles you encounter with your gun, dodging any acorn grenades lobbed at you by nefarious squirrels, yes really, and gathering up 5 apples before returning them to your den, whereby the whole process begins again. The next time though, you will have to venture even further afield to find the required food, putting yourself at greater risk. I think the graphics are really charming, with some fantastic animation for Mr. Fox as he runs around and blasts away with his rifle. The game also features some renditions of classical tunes for the background music, and it's pretty good, but it gets quite repetitive before long because it's the same fairly short section of music, repeated ad nauseum. I used to be pretty good at this game and eventually got quite far into it, but I never managed to complete it. I think it does have a finite ending though. I seem to recall Geigerpunk showed off the ending a while ago after he put Infinite Lives on. So it's fair to say that I love this game and consider it one of the best inclusions on a cover tape ever. That's probably partly because it was my first cover tape, but it is also a decent game in its own right. Let's see what the Zzapped crew made of it. Gordon kicked off his mini review with: I haven't had so much fun on a C64 game since Star Paws. He then went on to commend the game for its animation, something that other 2 reviewers, Katie Hamza and Matthew Evans, hardly agreed on. Math did question the longevity of the game though, saying, if you buy it tomorrow, you probably won't be playing it next year. But who cares about lastability when you've got a whole farmyard of animals to beat up now? They gave the game an overall score of 79%, which I think is a little bit on the low side considering the generally positive things they had to say about it, and they summed up with an unusual but entertaining variation on the arcade adventure theme. Next up, we move on to the Creatures playable demo, which was my first encounter with what would become my absolute favourite game on the C64. It just narrowly beats The Last Ninja 2, mind you, which I played so much I could eventually beat it from memory without cheats. The moment I first cast my eyes upon the amazing graphics and heard the ridiculously funky tune, I was hooked. Then the first time I witnessed the Fuzzy Wuzzy come to a grisly end in the torture chamber, I was both shocked and delighted. The game instantly went on to my must-have list, and when the full finished product was eventually in my hands, I was not disappointed. I know some others who have enjoyed this demo felt a bit let down to discover that the majority of the Creatures is actually side-scrolling platform levels, but I loved these too. Creatures 2 is also good, but extremely difficult and quite frustrating unless you have infinite lives. Mayhem in Monsterland was a great technical achievement, but it never quite clicked with me in the same way that Creatures did. When I was waiting for the full release of Creatures, I would play this demo over and over again. If you know what you're doing, it doesn't take very long to beat, but I would sometimes fire it up and let the Fuzzy Wuzzy die on purpose, just so that I could listen to more of the music. Taking a look at what Zzapped thought of the full game, veteran reviewer Robin, who still writes for Zzapped today in its newest incarnation, compared playing the game to playing a coin-op of the time, and then proceeded to compliment the graphics, the design of the many different beasties, and the amazing technical feats that the Rowland brothers had managed to pull off. He then stated, "This is my pick of 1990, which is high praise indeed. He wasn't the only one on the staff smitten with the game though, as Stuart immediately kicked off his section with, "Creatures is the best original game since Turrican." Reading their review again today has got me just as hyped to play through the game again as I was back when I read these words for the first time when the mag was published. They gave the game a thoroughly deserved 96% and concluded with, "The best excuse yet to play with cuddly toys." Now then, I'm afraid to say that I have very little memory at all of the other two full games that could be found on this tape. After the lofty heights of Side 1, I fear that nothing is going to be able to follow it up. Let's move on to Scorpion next though, which was a budget release on the Ract-It label from Hewson. You control the Scorpion tank type thingy, which is attached to oil pipes. It is your job to defend these pipes in the refinery that they belong to by defusing bombs. Katie Hamza commended the game for its graphics and parallax scrolling, but then she started to play the game. Bland is about the only word that springs to mind. She adds that it could have been good, but the slow, awkward control scheme really spoils things. Gordon echoed these sentiments with his own thoughts, saying, "Scorpion isn't fancy, but because of a really awkward control method, it's not even that much fun." They summed things up with an incredibly average rating of 56%, stating, "One of those games you bring out on a rainy day and then put away again." I definitely agree with these sentiments. Playing the game, it's as frustrating to try and go down a different pipe. I was forever getting caught up on the junctions. At least the game does feature a really nice loading tune, which is also on the title screen, but not in the main part of the game itself, sadly. It's quite a come down after the sheer brilliance that preceded it, and it's really little wonder that I loaded it up once back in the day and then never really thought about it again until now. We round things off this episode with Monster Munch, which is a simple Pac-Man clone. As I am fairly sure I've said before in one of my Commodore format episodes, Pac-Man already felt pretty ancient way back in the 80s and 90s, so it would take a version of exceptional quality or a new exciting spin on the formula to really get me excited about yet another clone of it. Monster Munch is not that. It's about as bare bones as it gets, and it doesn't even match up to the quality level of Namco's original. The gameplay is quite sluggish, and once you collect a power pill, the ghosts never seem to change back to normal unless you kill them, making it a bit on the easy side. Monster Munch has the air of somebody's first attempt at a game about it, but I'm not sure if that's actually true or not. Zzapped never reviewed this one, which I'm really not at all surprised to discover. If they did, I doubt they would have been very impressed with it. So it's a bit of a shame to end this particular tape with what I shall kindly refer to as filler, but Side A has still secured its place as one of my favourite Zzapped tapes of all time. There are still many more to come that I have never actually checked out in the 90s though, so there is the chance that something will come along that betters it. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to be kept up to date with future videos. I'll be continuing my journey in 2 weeks' time, so I hope you will join me then. In the meantime, take care.